it has to look a certain way, or it has to, kind of be perfect, or it has to be hard. I like
Right,
to take an approach of like, how can we make this fun? How can we make this enjoyable? Like, this is wellness, this is well-being, right? So we want
right.
to do things that, we actually desire to do.
Welcome to another empowering episodes of Her Hormones Empowerment Restoration. I'm your host, Wendy Curtis, and today I'm thrilled to introduce you to Chelsey, a passionate advocate for wellness, personal growth, and holistic living. Chelsey's journey is one of resilience and transformation, and she's here today to share her inspiring story and how she helps others to unlock their fullest potential through a holistic approach to health. Whether you're looking to navigate the challenges of hormonal imbalances or seeking practical ways to improve your overall wellness, this episode is packed with valuable insight. Please join me in welcoming Chelsey to the show. Hi, Chelsey. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Mindy, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to be joining you today.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your story. This will be fun.
Mm.
Can you start us off by just sharing your story and what initially inspired you to start your wellness journey?
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I suppose if I think back, throughout my life, when I was a child, I saw, some of the adults in my life kind of dealing with some chronic disease, and actually saw them managing it through diet and lifestyle, which was really inspiring and really showed me from a young age that that was such a powerful tool that we have. And as I got older, kind of into my late teens, definitely kind of veered off my path, was getting into all sorts of shenanigans, and also just found myself so disconnected from my body, from myself. Found myself, in some really unhealthy habits that left me just feeling so depleted, even though like I was technically healthy, right?
Right.
Like if the doctor looked at my blood panel, I'm sure it would have been fine, but I did not feel good. And so I started, probably around 18, getting really interested in just trying out different kind of like diet fads. I would say that's how it started. And then realized how beneficial just these simple things can be from our nutrition. And then I started, practicing yoga, and that became a huge, part of my journey as well. And got to this point where I just felt so different, so much better, and
Right.
then just wanted to share that with others. And it kind of, brought me back to, going through all those fads and figuring out what worked and what didn't work. I wanted to just help other people navigate that. And I wanted to learn more for myself as well. So that was when I decided to go to university, studying exercise science, nutrition, and wellness. And then I did my health and wellness coaching program through my university as well.
Amazing. Amazing. I think it's fantastic that you found it at such a young age and you were so aware of the differences, right? Between the healthy lifestyle and all the fad diets and stuff out there. And I was talking to somebody the other day and she was like, "Oh, I'm on this diet and I'm on this diet." And to me, like even the word diet is such a horrible word, right? Because it's just like this, it has such negative connotations of if you think of diet as it's like, well, this is just a temporary fix, right? Everybody goes on the diet, everybody goes on the next fad diet, and then they lose all the weight. And then after they lose the weight, then they're there for a minute and then they're back to their regular what they did to begin with. And so then they bounce back up to where they were. And so then they got to try the next fad diet and we're up and down, up and down. And so I was telling my client, I was like, don't say when somebody comes up to you, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you look so great. What are you doing?" Don't say, "Well, I'm on this diet." Say, I'm changing my lifestyle. I'm working on my nutrition. I'm working on my hydration. I'm working on all of these things because that's such a foundation of where we need to be. And if we can maintain that foundation, then it's sustainable, right? And it's long term. And then all of a sudden, we're not doing a diet. We're just, this is just who we are. And this is our lifestyle. And so it's fascinating and it's awesome that you figured that out at such a young age and you were able to push it into becoming a coach and going to university for all of that. That's amazing. Amazing job. Um, what do you think some specific challenges were that you faced in your own health and wellness that made you more motivated, I guess, to seek a more holistic approach? You mentioned that, you had seen some family members go through some chronic illnesses and they had worked, more holistically towards that. So was there anything in your own life that kind of spurred that as well?
Yeah, I think that honestly, just I would say the way I was raised had a lot to do with it. My parents really avoided taking us to the doctor unless it was really necessary. Just not just they wanted to do things holistically, which I think they did, but also, it's just financially, it's a lot.
Mhm.
Even just getting an appointment, we could talk all day about the American
Right.
healthcare system. But I think having other solutions is really important, and that was just kind of part of my upbringing. And my mom, I remember she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes when I was around like 10 or 11, and she did not want to take the medications. She really wanted to manage it with diet. And so I saw that, and that was inspiring for sure. And also, I think that I would just have to say it was kind of part of my upbringing. My parents are from California. Um, so that was cool. And then also, really, when I got into yoga, that was just a whole like eye-opening experience where, it's not just about diet and exercise, but also bringing in like mindfulness practices for like mental, emotional health and those sorts of things. It was just, yeah, life-changing. And I've been all in ever since.
I love it. I love it. And I have 5 kids and we homeschooled all of our kids. And I never took our kids to the doctor either, just because they were never sick, right? I mean, the yearly cold or the flu or whatever. But other than that, they just never got sick. And I remember I went in one year because with our school, we had to our school system, they required a physical at the beginning of every year for each child. Um, and so I'd go in and they'd get their physicals and I'd send those off to the school district or whatever. And so the doctor that we used, the nurse was like, she was looking back over the kids' charts and she was like, why are you only here once a year? And I was like, I just come in for their physicals. And she's like, yeah, but why is it only just once a year? Why are your kids never here? And I was like, they're never sick. Why would I bring them if they're never sick? And she was just like so like flabbergasted. She was just like, I cannot believe that you're not bringing your children in for their colds and their, because she asked me, she said, well, don't they get colds? And I was like, well, yeah, but we just treat it naturally. We just, let it run its course or whatever. And it was just so like mind boggling. So kudos to your mom. And yeah, of course the financial is always part of it too, but just knowing that our bodies are just so able to heal, naturally in so many different ways for some of this stuff. What do you think some of the most common misconceptions people have about wellness or personal growth? You mentioned that not only is it just the physical part and the nutrition part, but it's also mindset, right? So what do you think some of the common misconceptions are out there?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think that one of them could be that it has to look a certain way, or it has to, kind of be perfect, or it has to be hard. I like
Right,
to take an approach of like, how can we make this fun? How can we make this enjoyable? Like this is wellness, this is well-being, right? So we want
right.
to do things that, we actually desire to do. So
Hmm.
I think that I like to really work with my clients on finding that root, that desire. Like, why do you want to make these changes? And how can we paint a picture or, visualize your goals in a way that, feels doable, that feels possible? You don't have to just flip your whole life upside down from day one.
Right.
So
Right.
really, taking baby steps and, health and wellness coaching is really it's client centered. So, we want to find things that are going to work for the individual's life. We're all so different, unique, different jobs, lives, family sizes, And I think another one would be realizing that while behavior change can look or feel like it should be so simple, behavior change is kind of changing, who you are. It's your culture. It's like, we are kind of programmed from
Exactly.
childhood, excuse me. And and it can be difficult to really
Yeah.
to change, the foods that we've been eating, especially if we were eating, the similar foods from our culture, as a child up into our adulthood. So
Absolutely.
I think that, yeah, just trying to help people give themselves grace, trying to help them see the beauty in the journey and not just the hurdles to jump
Right.
over.
Right. Doing it a little bit at a time, right? Progress over perfection. A little bit better today than yesterday. But you said something in that I was like laughing because it's like, you're so right. Everybody has this picture of what it's supposed to look like to get healthy, you know? And I'm always like, who made the rules? Who made the rules that says you have to do this or you have to do that this way or the other way, And especially when it comes to things like even exercise, it's not considered exercise unless you're in the gym spending 30 minutes to an hour or you're, doing CrossFit or, not that there's anything wrong with CrossFit, but it's like that's what exercise is. And they discount that you can do like, I call them exercise snacks, right? Where you can do like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. If you're sitting and you're working all day and you don't have time to get up and take, a half an hour break or whatever, but you have 5 minutes that you can get up and you can walk the hallways for a few minutes and give yourself a little bit of movement that adds up. So those little exercise snacks add up and they are beneficial. And so we have all of these, you're absolutely right. And then it takes, I think, the pressure off. Because another thing is when people come in and they're like, okay, I've got to do this. I've got to lose the weight. I've got to get healthy. They have this weight on their shoulders of these preconceived ideas. And when they realize that it doesn't have to be that way, that we can mold this around them and who they are and find the joy in it. What was it that you liked to do? What was it that used to, did you used to love playing soccer? Like my husband's a great example. He cannot, for him, the thought of going to the gym and working out is like torture. It's like the worst thing ever. But you get him on a field where he can kick a soccer ball or he can play tennis or he can go ride a bike that to him is like pure joy. Um, and that's what makes them do it. And that's what we want, right? We want it to be something that is sustainable for them long term and lets them know that this is what living is. This is what, um, this type of lifestyle change is all about. So I love that. I love that you take that approach. Um, how do you balance, though, the emotional, mental, physical, all of the things in your own life? And then how do you show that to your clients to help your clients do the same?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. So for me personally, I think that I really come back to like my yoga practice. And for me personally, like starting the day with a 5-minute meditation, life changing,
Right. Yeah.
just to get the day started with some clarity, some stillness has been honestly one of the most life changing pieces of my journey, especially as somebody who tends to have a chaotic mind.
Right.
Um, but I think that what I try to show people or my clients with my journey is that I really tried a lot of different things and kind of found what stuck, like found what was most enjoyable, kind of going back to our last topic. Um, and kind of just starting out, yeah, building a foundation. Like, what are the like smallest changes we can make that are going to have the greatest benefits,
Right.
right? So,
Hmm.
um, like again, for me, I know, and I've even worked with a health coach myself, and I truly enjoy it. I know that like I have to get myself set up right over the weekend because I'm working Monday through Friday. Like the kitchen's got to be clean, the groceries have to be bought, the meals have to be planned. And if
Hmm.
I know that if I can do that, then I can get through the week successfully.
Right.
I also know that when those things don't happen, it tends to be a bit more challenging. And now that I've really recognized these patterns, I feel like I can actually do the things I need to do to set myself up for success. And I can give myself the grace I need to when, stuff happens, life happens. There are
Yeah.
weekends where I don't get to the groceries and the planning, and then there's a few more takeout meals than I would like to have, throughout the week. And so I really just try to show people that. So it's like not that you have to do what I'm doing, but you have to do that work to find out what actually works for you.
Right, right. So a couple things in there that I just love. I love that you start your morning with that little, even if it's just 5 minutes meditation. So often people just grab their phones first thing. They get up and it's their phones that they're looking at first thing. And you can watch, like you can actually watch them, through the day as their angst and their anxiety and everything else just like ramps up through the day. And it's because they started their day that way. When you're starting your day on your phone and you're looking at the news or you're looking at social media, you've automatically started it either in angsty over what's happening in the world or you're angsty over comparing yourself to, somebody's highlight reels. And why start that way? Giving yourself that 5 minutes just to like balance yourself and be like, you know what? I'm starting my day in gratitude and meditation, and I'm so thankful for this day, and I'm so thankful for what this day is going to bring me, and stuff just is such a powerful way of just starting your day. And it doesn't have to be hard, and it doesn't have to be like, you're sitting there for 20 minutes or whatever. 5 minutes, 5 minutes is a game changer, I think. So amazing, amazing that you do that. And you talked about setting yourself up for the week. Yeah. Yeah, that makes all the difference, right? Setting yourself up for success. But I love, and you've said this a couple of times, and I'm just like, oh, I love that, where you're talking about, you have to give yourself grace because you're right. I mean, life's all the time, right? I mean, there are things that happen all the time. And on the weeks there you can be more prepared. That's amazing. But sometimes that doesn't happen. So I love how you're always coming back to, give yourself grace. We are human, right? This is something that we're working through and figuring out as we go. So amazing, amazing. I love all of that. I love all of that. Let's talk about hormones for a second. How do you think that hormones play in our overall wellness? And how do you think that women can better understand and address their hormonal health?
Yes, a big question.
I know. Pop quiz.
Uh, well, of course, there are so many different hormones in the body, and there's all different organ systems at play. So I'm just gonna speak on what I know, the most about, which is stress and stress hormones and the, physiological effects they have on the body. And I'm gonna bring this back again to my yoga practice, just because, in yoga we're really seeking balance throughout the body. We're seeking homeostasis,
Mhm.
and I think that's what we're seeking when we talk about balancing the hormones, especially, for women. We are such cyclical beings going through all
Right.
these hormonal changes every single month. So I think one thing that can be really powerful is just understanding the cycle, like our literal menstrual cycle, understanding kind of these natural waves that we're going through, just because. just being able to recognize the patterns. And I think
Right.
that helps ourselves, navigate the different things that can come up in each different kind of phase of the cycle. And to me, pattern recognition is like kind of like step one,
Right.
building the self awareness. And then also just going back to stress and how, stress can be a good thing, right? It helps us to be better. It helps us in times of crisis, if we need to fight or flight.
Right.
um, but what we're seeing today is that the nervous system is chronically stressed, and the physiological effects in that constant state are not great, right? So we
Hmm.
know that chronic stress can really increase hypertension, or just like constrict the blood vessels, which is going to cause the heart to beat faster, which can also be pretty anxiety inducing, and then it kind of becomes this feedback loop. And then, there's all the other body systems as well, like going back to reproductive and like women's menstrual cycles. Chronic stress is going to really decrease like blood flow to the sex
Hmm.
organs. That's true for men and women. And, over time, if we're chronically stressed day in and day out, that's going to have, some negative effects for us
Yeah.
to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, also blood sugar regulation with that stress, it's going to increase blood sugar, decrease in insulin resistance, which can be a cause, a problem, in the body, blood sugar regulation. And I think they just all kind of feed into each other. So if you're in this state chronically, it can be so hard to break that cycle and to kind of get out of that. I don't know. I just went on a little tangent.
Yeah,
So I'm like,
no,
what was the
no,
original
and
question?
no, it's great. So you talked about how it's so important to understand the cycles that we're going through, which I think 100%, right? Knowledge is power. And when you are, there's sometimes, especially, I remember, when you first started, as a woman, you're first starting going through, menstrual cycles and everything, and every month just wondering what the heck is going on with my body. And then it just gets worse. I mean, then you get into premenopause and menopause and postmenopause, and you're just like, what in the world just happened, right? But knowledge is power. And so understanding, and again, coming back to grace, right? Of this is what is happening with my body at this point, and this is why, and it's not going to be forever, but this is how we're going to write it out. And giving yourself that opportunity, especially monthly with your menstrual cycle and stuff, and as the different phases come through, and just understanding what each phase is, um, gives you back almost, it's a sense of control, over yourself, where you don't feel like you are just like out there going crazy, that you're actually understanding what's going on with your body. And I think that is so powerful, and brings such peace, right, to it. And 100% about the stress, man. 100%. I was listening to a doctor the other day on a podcast, and she was talking about how, especially for women, she said, not taking away from anybody else, right? Or anybody else out there, but women especially have the weight of the world on our shoulders, right? We got the kids, we're worried about finances, we're worried about what's going on. And then as our kids get older, then we're going through graduations and empty nesting. And then, we're changing our whole life again. And then menopause hits, and that's a whole new thing, and then we're taking care of parents, and the whole lifestyle. The women just carry so much on their shoulders, and it's no wonder that our stress doesn't come down anymore, and learning how to regulate that stress, so that our body can rest, so that our body can heal, and become understanding how stress really affects everything, um, is so, so important. So I love that you teach that, and that you're bringing that out to your clients, because I think we get so used to too of, well, this is just how it is, right? I'm stressed. Everybody's stressed. This is what it is. And it's not supposed to be what it is. So I really love that you help your clients see that. That's so, so important. Um, what do you think in your own journey and in your own life where you had like a turning point where you were like you realized that your journey had transformed in a huge way? What do you think? Can you share a time like that that's happened with you?
Yes, there's been a few, and I'm trying to kind of decide which one to discuss. Um, I will say I can't really think of like the exact like perfect moment that this happened, but I just kind of talked in the beginning about my health journey and, going through, a time in my late teens where I was kind of just all mixed up, feeling very, disconnected from myself, my body, and was kind of struggling with a bit of an eating disorder and was just like, just avoiding calories at all costs
Right.
because that's what was thinking health was at that point. And it's hard to even relate to that version of myself these days. But my experience with coming back into my body, back to myself, it was just like I was so tired. I was so tired of just like not loving myself, of feeling crappy, and
Wow.
just like I'm so done. I was just like done being miserable. And it was kind of like a low point, but slightly empowering in a way. Like I was just like, I'm just ready to let that all go and to be happy
Right.
just for myself. I think it started with a mindset shift of just like, I just want to be happy, you know?
Wow.
And yeah, and then it wasn't like a moment or like I actually never had treatment for my disordered eating and everything, but it just kind of faded away. And I feel like that is not the normal story for
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually know. I could be wrong. But that was my experience. And I'm so thankful for that part of my journey for just one day, just yeah, waking up and just deciding to do things in a better way.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And um yeah, I mean, I everybody's journey is so different, right? And everybody's story is so different, but to say, I think at some point everybody hits that rock bottom and everybody hits the time where it's just like you choose, right? And the choice is, am I going to stay here or am I not? And you chose not to. And that's powerful and that's amazing because that shows how strong, really the desire for change can be, but only you can make that change, right? Only you can decide that for yourself. And but also when you do decide it, then the steps, especially when you start taking that first step, is not as hard as you thought it was going to be because you knew that you were on your path and you said how it just kind of all just went away. And I love that, how it was just kind of like, okay, this is where I'm going and I'm choosing to change. And that's powerful. Our choices are very, very powerful. Amazing. Um, Mindset is such a huge part of everyone, right? I mean, we all have these preconceived notions, we all have these preconceived thoughts, and we kind of talked about it earlier about how, we think we should do things a certain way, right? And that saying we should all over ourselves, right? We should do it, that we should do that way, this and because our minds are so made up in that way. So how do you incorporate mindset work? How do you incorporate that into your coaching, and why do you think it's such a crucial part of everyone's wellness journey?
Yes. So mindset, yeah, that's a huge one. I mean, it's just all so connected, mind, body, spirit. Like if we're missing, kind of one of those pieces to the puzzle, it just doesn't quite feel right. I think that for me, there's been some different modalities that have really helped with my mindset. I know earlier in my journey, I was doing a lot of gratitude work, making gratitude lists in the mornings, kind of going over them. And I've actually read some articles, like there's some profound research on the power of a gratitude practice.
Oh,
So
I am
highly recommend.
100%. Yeah,
And
it's my favorite.
um, and I know like, in the deepest, darkest times, sometimes it can feel like there's not a lot to be grateful for. And then you just feel your heartbeat, you feel your breath, and you remember.
Right.
So I think that can be really powerful and can be brought into to meditation as well. I've mentioned that a few times. It's a big
Hmm.
one for me for um, just finding some stillness, some peace of mind, like literally.
Right. Yeah.
So I have never been diagnosed with ADHD, though my therapist has their suspicions. Um, but
There are signs.
because I don't want to or feel the need to take medications, there's really no point in seeking a diagnosis, really, for me personally. And with that, I do have some of those patterns of feeling a chaotic mind or kind of jumping around or struggling with my tasks at times. But meditation, again, has been such a powerful, powerful tool for me for that. And then also getting into affirmations. Sometimes, you know, you kind of see these gaps or these kind of blind spots. And I remember like my self-confidence was a big one I was working on a few years ago. I mean, still am.
Right.
But I remember I made this one up and I would just in the morning say like I am competent. I radiate confidence. And like that would just be like my mantra for the morning. And it's
Right.
like sounds so silly. Um and a lot of this to me when before I started doing it sounded like so silly. And then I was like, but I'll just, give it a try. And then,
Right.
it's like, oh wow, I'm like feeling better. I'm, feeling more confident in myself and feeling more present, more energetic. So
Words have power.
absolutely. And saying them out loud, like there is,
Yeah.
I think, there is a power that comes with, the mental practice, but like speaking something out loud, whether it's to the mirror or just to the space or to, a friend or family member that's witnessing you, there's so much power in that. And that is truly to me one of the most beneficial parts of health and wellness coaching is just like getting it all out there.
100%, 100%, and creating that vision, right, of who you are, because we're told so many things in our life, and there's I'll use the example of one of my boys when he was little, right? It was like whenever he wanted to eat, whenever we ate tacos, for example, he always had to have like he called it cheese taco, a quesadilla, right? He didn't want the meat, he didn't want anything. And my mother-in-law just used to drive her crazy. She'd be like, why wouldn't he want like a full taco? And I'm like, he's 3. He wants a cheese taco. He's eating. It's all good. But every time now that we have tacos, and she looks at him and she's like, oh my gosh, you're putting meat on your taco, right? She's like, she's got this vision of who he is without seeing that he is now like 28 years old and he eats like a full taco. So, but in saying that, what I'm talking about is having that vision, because sometimes we have other people's visions of who we should be as well on us, and sometimes those visions of who those people hold are when we were younger or when we were somebody else and now we're becoming this other person. And so to be able to, so we hold their vision of who we are in ourselves as well, right? Like my son's always just like, it's okay, grandma, I eat full tacos now, but in his mind, he's always just like, why does she always see me as I'm 3? And I'm like, but you're not 3, right? In so many ways, you're not 3. And so I think I love how you use like those affirmations of this is who I am, right? Because words are so powerful, and you're creating a vision of, I am confident. I am, capable. I am able to do this. And that is so, so amazing. And I love that. And absolute gratitude journaling. Oh my gosh, my fave. And you're right. Sometimes, you're like, there is nothing to be grateful for. But, even if it's, I just got up this morning. Thank you that I got up this morning. Thank you for my body. Thank you for my body that's able to do. Thank you for this bed, whatever it is, because when you do turn your mind towards gratitude, then you can't be anxious. There's no room for that darkness when you're speaking light over yourself. And so powerful, so powerful. I love all of that. Um, how does community play? You talked a little bit about how sometimes you speak with your family or your therapist or whatever. So how does community play in your approach to wellness? And why do you think it's so important to have that support system?
Yeah, community is so beautiful, so important. And community can mean a lot of things. So just thinking about like the household community, your family, your roommates, whoever you're sharing your space with, especially depending on the dynamic, the relationship, whether it's like, your spouse or your roommate or, your sister that's your roommate or something. Um, I think that one, it's just beautiful to have people, social wellness. Like, if we think about all the different dimensions of wellness, having social interactions, social support is so beneficial. It's just healthy. We are been communal beings. It's a part of, our evolution. But thinking about it from like a health and wellness coaching perspective, we know that having social support is going to drastically increase your ability to succeed. So I think like, having support of your family members, like if the family is willing to make some kind of like sacrifices to support your wellness journey, um, that's going to be huge. Of course, that's what we would want, I would say. One thing that can be really challenging with that is when the goals of different members kind of, are not the same.
Hmm.
And we can navigate that, of course. But then looking at the bigger picture of community, I think of there's a word in yoga, sangha, like your spiritual family. So I think about like the yoga studio that I teach at. I only teach there one class a week, and I literally just teach that class to stay connected to that community, right? To see my students. I get to take other classes, see the other teachers, and just be, a part of their events. Also gotten some great opportunities. I taught at our local yoga festival last month,
Oh.
and just meeting these like-minded individuals that have similar goals or interests, hobbies. It's just so healing. It's so beautiful. I think it's just like we naturally encourage each other when we're kind
Hmm.
of on these similar journeys and inspire each other and support each other. So
It's so
it's
important,
just,
right? To have
yeah.
that support and to have that because it helps in so many in different ways. Just that encouragement and that love, right? That you feel from
Mm.
your community and acceptance is amazing. And do you think that that is one of the things that, when women who are feeling overwhelmed and they're feeling like they have to be perfect, how do you think that community feeds into that? Do you think that that is more of a positive thing or a negative thing? So when, like when women feel overwhelmed and they want to be perfect and they want to show up, in yoga and they're going to be perfect in yoga, do you think that there is a way to help women overcome that to be more accepted, not only of themselves, but how they see themselves in the community? Does that make sense? It's kind of like all over, but helping, I guess, using community to help overcome some of those limiting beliefs that we have about ourselves. Maybe that's a clear question. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think I get what you're saying. I think that there's kind of two sides of the coin. and it really depends, what community you're a part of. And, I'm sure everyone's a part of many different communities. But like for me personally, I am always trying to bring in, this self-love and this self, I want to call it self, but giving grace to the self, that
Mhm.
is a big one for me. Um, so if I find myself often in communities where there is a lot of support, there's a lot of encouragement, inspiration, women giving each other grace, and that is absolutely beautiful and can be extremely healing. I've also been in spaces where it felt like being perfect was kind of the status quo of that community. And to me, that can be damaging, in some circumstances. But I always try to kind of be the seed, the seed for
Right.
change. So if I find myself in those spaces, like I am not afraid to mess up. I do it all the time. I trip over my words. I trip over my feet. It happens. I keep going. And I really have no shame with that. Um, in most circumstances, we all have our days.
Right.
But I think that's inspiring to other people, and
Oh,
I think that
100%.
I'm inspired by others who, kind of live their lives in a similar manner.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that. Yeah. It's one of the things I always tell my girls. We get so caught up in what we think other people are thinking about us that we don't realize that they're really not thinking about us. They're just worrying about their own selves and how they're going to trip up. And so when you can fully understand that, and you can be like, you know what, it's all good. I am 100% human, and I am going to trip over my feet or trip over my words, like you said, is it's so freeing, and it is such a great example for others too, because it gives them permission then, right, to be themselves and to be more authentic that way. And I love that. I love that. Okay, a couple more questions, and then we're gonna run out of time. So, what tools or practices do you incorporate into your life that have been game changers for your personal health and mindset? And we kind of covered some of these, I think, earlier, but let's just kind of like go over them again real quick.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, meditation has been a big one for me. And one thing I want to go over with that is that meditation is one of the many, many different, mindfulness practices. So,
Right.
um, I always tell people like if you're just not gonna be the person to sit on to sit somewhere and like close your eyes for 5 minutes, that's okay. But like, what about like a mindful journaling prompt where like you're just putting all your intention, your mental energy into that one thing.
Right.
So when I think of mindfulness, I think of we're giving the mind a job to do, noticing when it strays away
Mhm.
from that job and just bringing it right back and giving the mind a break in a way with that.
Love it. Yeah.
So like, dance, ecstatic dance, just, feeling the music, moving your body, like that can be a mindfulness practice. You know, yogasana, yoga, going through the poses and just focusing all your mind energy on the sensations in the body and the breath. And you could even do this with like art, with coloring or painting or even singing. I love singing and dancing. I do them every day. And and yeah, so just finding what works for you, I think, is a big one, with that. But the mindfulness piece to me is huge.
Yeah.
Um, Also, another one is taking taking the time and space. So when I think of my wellness journey, for a long time, it was all about knowledge. Like I was going to school, I was studying, I was learning all the things. And then it got to a point where I was like, okay, now I need to apply this all to my life, to gain the experience, to gain the wisdom,
Right.
to share with others, to inspire others, to inspire myself. to be more relatable. And with that, I have done a good bit of health and wellness coaching where I've actually been the client receiving the coaching. And it has been so beneficial for me personally. And it's also just kind of reiterated like why I'm a health coach. So
Right.
I just totally, yeah, feel all the benefits of it. And a big part of the coaching process for me as a client and something I kind of, offer to my clients is really just having that time to check in, right? So like
Mhm.
to check in on the goals we're working on, to see what's working, what's not working, what could be done better. What do we just want to throw out? Like, no, that
Right.
was just not the thing.
Tried it, didn't work.
Um, and then coming back to that, but like doing that consistently again and again, like just taking time and space. And I think that some people can do this on their own. For me, and I know for many other people, like having a coach, like somebody to just to hear you, to listen, to have a time on the calendar,
Right.
to make sure that that actually happens is a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you said to have a time on a calendar because it's so easy to say, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. But we don't take that time for ourselves. We just don't. We just are like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. So scheduling time for yourself is amazing, and scheduling time where you can sit there and talk to a coach about all of the things that are going on, and in a judgment-free space and in a space that is holding grace for you, to allow you to have that grace for yourself is so important and so powerful. I love it. I love it all. So thank you so much, Chelsey, for joining us today. Where can the listeners connect with you to learn more about your work, and how can they start working with you to improve their wellness journey?
Yeah, so I am mainly on Instagram right now. So my handle is X Gleaming X, and that's just for Gleaming Health and Wellness is what I'm calling my coaching practice. So right now I'm just kind of putting out some just kind of fun content, just trying to get people to know me and just to, kind of make connections with people that are interested in this work. And I am taking clients. So
Perfect.
I do have like my Calendly link through my Instagram right now. And I'm definitely in the process of kind of, getting a website and an email list and all that stuff together. But for now, Instagram's the best way to find me. And I would love to connect with anyone just that wants to follow along. At this point, I'm not like fully booked or anything like that. I have a lot of time to connect with people, to answer questions. So I'm definitely open for that.
Awesome, awesome. And I'll make sure that we put your link in the show notes so people can just click on it too, because it's so fun just to connect, and even if they just follow you for a while to see what you are all about. I love that. I love that you're giving them that opportunity. So well, your wisdom and passion for wellness has been truly inspiring, and I'm so glad that you've been here today. And I'm sure that our audience has gained some valuable insights. So thank you so much for being here. It's been such a pleasure to talk with you today.
And thank you for having me, Mindy. This has been, yeah, just a beautiful experience. Great to meet you, and thank you just for creating this space and putting this content out there for all your listeners.
All right. Thank you so much. To connect with Chelsey and learn more about her work, be sure to check out the links in the show notes. And as always, if you're ready to take control of your health, don't forget to head over to www.mindycurtishealthcoach.com and take your free toxicity quiz and schedule a 30-minute discovery call. I'm here to help you reset your hormones, reclaim your health, and restore your joy. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of H.E.R, Hormones, Empowerment, and Restoration. Until next time, remember that you are wonderfully and beautifully made.